At Facebook in the early days, nobody took us seriously. So when I joined, Elevenlabs was sub 100 million, and we're going to finish the year at 300 million. We're probably the safest AI company on the planet right now. What I've done in the past does not apply to this new world. Facebook, Intercom, Elevenlabs, if they would have told me, Stan, we need someone at the panini machine in the canteen, would you do it? I'd be like, yes, I'll happily do it.
Today on Billions, I'm sitting down with Stan Massueras, the guy who scaled companies to billion-dollar valuations, not once, but multiple times. He was one of the first Facebook employee in 2008, then helped Twitter expand across the continent after that. He also spent 6 years scaling Intercom to unicorn status, and now he's doing it all over again at Elevenlabs, the voice AI company that went from $0 to $6 billion+ valuation in under 3 years. In this episode, we'll dig into what it actually looked like to scale sales, how selling AI is fundamentally different from selling SaaS, and what Stan had to unlearn from the typical SaaS playbook to succeed at Elevenlabs. If you want to understand what it takes to repeatedly win at the billion-dollar level and what breaks inside companies growing this fast, this episode is for you. Stan, thanks a lot for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Guillaume. I'm usually the one asking you to join some of our events. So I'm happy to return the favor for once.
Yeah, we've known each other for quite some years now, and I've always been super impressed by your career and everything you've done so far. I was quite curious because you worked at Facebook, then Twitter, and then you were at Intercom scaling sales. What's kind of the real story behind scaling sales, especially all over Europe as you did?
Yeah, so scaling sales all over Europe is can be very ambiguous because if you try to implement the US playbook, it will never work, especially in the EMEA region because it's very fragmented. A lot of also regulations, especially in France and in Germany. Also, in terms of the business codes, when you deal with an Israeli company versus a German company, the way you talk about pricing proposal, Israelis will love to talk about money upfront. German community will actually try to, do it asynchronously. So there's a lot of nuances that you can't really understand if you're based in San Francisco in your office and thinking about deploying your go-to-market strategy in the state of California versus doing it in Germany or in the Netherlands or in France. So that's, the nuances. And then, of course, the things that most companies neglect is that by default, you want to be product-led, but you also want to sell to enterprises. Selling to enterprises in Europe is pretty tough, in terms of regulations. So all the certification you need to own. So that's why, to be on the ground, to really understand, the nuances, the emotion and the empathy of the buyer is what makes the difference between selling from the US versus, selling, SaaS or an AI product when you are in Europe.
And did you see any difference between what you were doing at Facebook and Intercom, for example?
Yes. So main difference is that Facebook is very similar to Elevenlabs today. That we were pitching a product at the time that nobody had. So if you were an advertiser, if you're an advertising agency at the time, the choices were very limited. You could do skyscraper advertising on Yahoo and MSN or Google. That was it. So when we came and when we created this social advertising where you can leverage your social graph, this is when things really skyrocketed. But it took some time. In the early days, nobody took us seriously. I still remember this guy called Gilles from Havas in France. I'm not going to mention his surname just in case if he still works there. But I remember cold calling him saying, hey, it's Stan from Facebook. We'd love to talk about our advertising solution, etc. And I don't know if you remember, Guillaume, but this one of the original social network in France called Skyblog.
Yeah.
It was a social network started by a radio for teenagers. And literally, he told me, Stan, the day you have a bigger audience than Skyblog, give me a call back. And he hung up on me. And I was like, yeah, visionary.
Did you call him back?
He called us back. He called us back, a few months. But yeah, it took 6 to 8 months to really crack Europe before we saw any type of traction.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
And do you see a lot of difference between, I would say, traditional SaaS company and AI company? Because, at Elevenlabs, I mean, we've been using the product a lot. We've been like super successful in many use cases. And what I love, and when you're also working in sales, is that the pricing has completely changed from user base or seat base versus like usage base. Like, how exactly does that impact the sales process? And are there any other difference you see internally?
Yeah, so I'll talk about pricing, but first in terms of the differences, and even if Intercom pivoted into becoming a full AI company, but I would say the main difference between AI companies that are really scaling super, super fast today, so think about the Lovable and the Elevenlabs of this world, the Synthesia, etc. So things that they all have in common is that this big disrespect of the old playbook. So the playbook invented by the likes of Salesforce, Oracle, and where you need to have an army of SDR, and you need to have like multiple layers of middle management. AEs do not cold call, do not cold email. They work with an SDR, and the SDR is a little bit like a PA almost. This does not happen, for especially at Elevenlabs. Intercom was slightly different. We were, always, very, very, I wouldn't say frugal, but we're very careful about not damaging our profitability, and we're super, super efficient. And I think at Elevenlabs we even took it, a step further. Number one, if you look at our SDR teams, they are almost like, we call them the bionic SDRs, because thanks to AI, they can do things that they were not able or even allowed to do in the past, such as I'm going to go to Berlin and do a roadshow and meet prospect face to face. This seems normal in sales. Where like in the old playbook, if you're an SDR, no, you stay in the office 5 days a week, you call or you call email. So the time that they're saving by leveraging tools like Lemlist, where we're a big user of Lemlist, but also the productivity that we have, because AI literacy is super, super important to us. So when you apply for a job at Elevenlabs, we will check how literate you are with AI tools. It doesn't matter which one, because there are always new ones popping up. But it's very important to see if someone can adapt to this new world and can unlearn the previous playbook.
What kind of tests do you ask them?
Yeah, so the first ones that I personally do, so I think after this podcast, I'll have to change it. But during the first interview, I always say, we're going to do a little game. So after we introduce ourselves, we talk about why they want to join Elevenlabs. But I always ask them, okay, so check in the chat section. I just sent you a link. And sometimes it's you, Guillaume, but sometimes it's Charles from Alan, different CEOs, different founders. But I will tell them, share your screen. You can use every single tool that you want, but craft the perfect outbound email where you're going to be pitching, let's say, the agent platform from Elevenlabs to Guillaume. And walk me through the steps. And the answer is that there is no perfect, path to get there. It's very subjective. What I think is a great outbound email versus what you think is a great outbound email. But I want to see which tools are using, their thought process. And it's funny to see that in 2025, when you interview enterprise AEs that are on paper, I'm a master of outbound. When you ask them to share their screen, then everything collapses. So haven't logged into Sales Navigator since 2017, or it's usually my SDR will do this for me. It's like, okay, so you don't really outbound. You get inbound leads from your SDRs. We're actually outbound. And then it's interesting to see the thought process behind how thoughtful some of them might be. Like taking a pause, thinking about the answer. Some of them might have created custom GPTs. That will take your LinkedIn profile, look into specific keywords, and then look at what the AI strategy at Lemlist in Google to look at, okay, here's my angle and here's how I'm going to craft the email. And that's what we want to see. Not nice. And unfortunately, it's 10 to 20% of candidates who actually still know how to outbound. So that's one of the exercises that we try to do. And sometimes I will change to as well. But this is a good way to actually filter out the ones that will require hand holdings, that will take super long to ramp up. So we struggle with the current tools that we're using. We just interviewed an incredible candidate. She's joining us, very, very soon. She's not coming from a traditional SaaS company, and she was against some killer candidate. Like 6-7 years, of AE experience, great companies like Canva, Figma, one of them coming from Zendesk, etc. Great pedigree, but they all collapsed. They all collapsed on this exercise, and she did extremely well.
And quick question, because you mentioned like the old playbook where basically, you had like SDR, we were doing like all the manual work, only doing like the cold calls, prospecting, etc. And the IEs who pretend that they do outbound, but actually are just waiting for the hot leads to come their way. Right now, like at Elevenlabs, basically like you only have like sales who are full sales cycle, and you don't really split like both function. Is that correct?
No, we do have a small team of SDRs who they take inbound, but they also outbound. However, for all the AEs, we've got pretty aggressive target, and we expect that 50% of
is coming from outbound.
Will be coming from outbound. And so that's step one. Step two also, which I think is very unique to Elevenlabs and maybe companies like Basecamp. I think you might be well familiar with Jason Fried but it's pretty similar as well, where there is no middle management. So when you work at Elevenlabs, it doesn't matter which team, if you're in design, customer support, marketing, or sales. If you work for the team, if you manage it, AEs or CSM or not, you still have an individual target. So you still need to be on the battlefield. You still need to know how to sell better than anybody else. And that's also what makes the difference between someone who understands the current what the current code of selling to businesses in Europe in 2025 versus most SaaS companies where the sales VP or the sales director was an AE, but like in 2014, and that's how it used to be done, and so it still must work today.
So your target is linked to like the amount of sales from your team, or do you have also an individual target on your end?
I do have an individual quota, and best thing to be honest, the best things that ever happened to me since joining Elevenlabs, because it's very easy to be detached from customer conversation. You only speak with them when there is a large deal progressing, or when there is a big problem and the customer wants to churn. So that's when you usually jump in and out. But end to end, from sending an outbound email to closing the deals, that's personally, I think it's what will keep me relevant for the next years ahead, because the playbook is completely new. So what I've done in the past does not apply to this new world.
And do you still have like a steering committee, or like how does the management work? Because as you said, there is no like real middle management, but you're still like managing a team, even though you have like individual targets. So how exactly does that work internally?
Yeah, we've got small squads organized per specific territories. We started to introduce also product leads for verticals that work really well for us. And then we've got two kind of like head of sales, one in the US, Ben, one and looking after all of international, Carles. And then underneath, we've got Hugo that will kind of oversee all of EMEA. And then we've got like, all the squads underneath. But also maybe on this, it's still for me, when I found it mind-blowing when I joined Elevenlabs, when I opened Salesforce for the first time. You can see Carles, running outbounding campaigns in Lemlist to companies that just joined Y Combinator, or you can see like order form being sent from Matty, our CEO. Everybody, when I say everybody is on the battlefield, it's everybody. It's like there is no one just do their job and spend time in spreadsheet and PowerPoint.
That's so nice. And I'm quite curious because obviously right now I think Elevenlabs is in the hundreds of millions in annual recurring revenue. I think I read somewhere like it was highly profitable with around like 100 million profit, but maybe like the numbers are not like totally public. I was just curious, like you have the opportunity because of the valuation, the amount you raised, and also like the cash in bank to potentially like hire like a lot of people. Like that's what we've seen in many like scale up in the past. And as you mentioned, it was kind of the old playbook where you just burn cash, hire as many people as possible to try to scale. What's kind of the balance at Elevenlabs at the moment between hiring fast, because I know you're still hiring a lot, and keeping, like the team lean and efficient and still manage like the size and the scale?
So first of all, we take our time to hire people. So it's done purposely that we're always, pretty stretched. And the reason why we're stretched is because we need to always find creative new solution to do our job. And there is always a solution. In terms of revenues, when I joined, Elevenlabs was sub 100 million. I joined them a bit more than a year ago now, and we're going to finish the year at 300 million. That's the goals that we set. And I remember when I was chatting with Carles, when he was like, "When will be 300 million of AR company?" You'll see, I was like, "It's not when, it's if." That's that's the difference. But no, so all my previous assumption about this will not scale actually were wrong. I think there is this mindset. I don't know if it's imposed by VCs or, when you bring the parent CEOs that are brought by the board at some point, you need to scale. And actually, you don't have to. If you hire the right people with the right mindset that work hard and also that care about the mission, you can actually achieve the impossible. And if I look at the AR that we usually drive from AEs at Elevenlabs just for first sales, it's usually 3x what we usually get at a top performing SaaS company.
Insane. Out of how many deals was that?
There was a big one in it, but there was like a long tail of small and medium size.
And the vibe at the company, it's like fully remote, or do you also have like office space, and do you meet often?
Yeah. So we are kind of hybrid, and we love hiring remotely. So right now we're probably like 350 employees, and we spread across 48 markets. I think also it's an interesting point, the reason behind, especially in go-to-market. So we hire top talent wherever they are, and we use nowadays are great tools like Deal, where you can hire people across multiple different geos, makes things a lot easier, which things that was not available pre-COVID. And so that's why right now, literally, we have people almost all around the world, and the goal is to be close to our community. Carles, our head of sales, is coming from Uber, and at Uber, if you look at Uber versus Lyft in the US, so two Silicon Valley company, Lyft decided to pilot everything from San Francisco, and they built a great business. I think it's like $4-5 billion company nowadays. And if you look at Uber, it's actually sends squads in cities. So we're not thinking about let's activate Germany, but let's activate the city of Berlin first. And then we'll send a squad to the city of Munich, and then we'll go to Amsterdam. And so being kind of like international, like global kind of mindset, but hyper local is what we're aiming to do. So that's why when we, especially in sales, when someone will tell us, well, I'm actually in Madrid, we're like, great. Or I'm actually based in Paris, like amazing. But we do have offices. We love people to come to the office. So we've got a hub in London, got a small one in Dublin. We've got a really nice one in Warsaw because the founders are Polish. We're a European company. And most of the products and also lots of researchers are based in Poland. And New York is our biggest go-to-market office in the US.
Yeah, makes sense. You mentioned earlier, like the fact that there's a difference, obviously, when you want to close like SMB and potentially like more enterprise. When it comes to Elevenlabs strategy, do you think you could walk us through a little bit like the different persona you have and segments, and how do you prioritize on one specific segment? Because from my understanding of the business is that you have like quite a broad range of customers, and I'm curious to know like how does the self-serve works from the enterprise motion and kind of the split.
Yeah, so focus first on what we call the enterprise motion, which is customer signing an annual contract with us.
Okay.
You're right. We've got many ICPs because we had, if not too long ago, but we had this series of like many products. Now we decided to segment it in two different platforms. The creative platform, which is more geared to text to speech, if you want to do like voiceover or like voiceover for marketing, social media post. If you want to do speech to text, if you want to dub a video, if you want to create a podcast, to take a piece of text and automatically will convert it into a dynamic podcast, or if you want to create an audiobook. So that's a different set of ICP. It's usually people working in marketing, advertising agencies, creative agencies. And so it's a completely different ICP of our agent platform, which is purely geared toward the B2B community. And so for that, we go after usually all the type of like head of AI innovation, head of support, head of customer experience. And so for that, we try to be very specific on the marketing that we create in terms of content development, in terms of the events that we create, and also customer roadshows. Last week for me was all about the creative platform, meeting with media, TV channels, movie studios, etc. Next trip is going to be purely focused on the B2B umbrella. And so that's why, having the ability to jump back and forth is very tough. And back in the days, 18, 24 months ago, I would have told you, you need, the mantra was pick your ICP, pick your segment and go deep, own one thin slice of, the total addressable market and go deep and be the de facto solution. But I can see that now, with AI, it's so hard, it's so spread across multiple ICPs. And so that's why AI companies grow fast as well. It's this ability to jump between context and between ICPs and to master the two type of industry. It's not for everybody, but for the likes of Lovable, it works super well. Synthesia, Agen, us.
Why do you think it's working so well in AI and not that much in software?
I think it's because most software companies will be an expense management software, or travel management software, and account receivable software. I think the decision made 7-8 years ago when they did the first round, now they have to stick to the lane. It will be pretty hard for Navan to be like, oh, now we do AI solution for the gaming developer.
Yeah.
But that's something we can afford to do. We can literally like equip the customer support team of a telco company with our agent platform, but then at the same time work with the developer of Fortnite and to provide the voice of the Darth Vader character, so we can have a conversation with Darth Vader as you're playing Fortnite. So that's kind of things that might seem to be impossible, but actually totally doable.
So do you always come up with the different use cases? So right now, like you mentioned, some very different, I think you were working also like in the movie industry also, where you can dub and do like a lot of different voiceover or like text to speech, etc., etc. Like, do you come up with the use cases, or do you like how exactly would you open one vertical typically?
That's my personal observation, so I don't know if it's the official point of view of Elevenlabs. But what I've seen so far is that, yes, at the start, it was mainly user-driven. So we'll tell us, like, here's what we're doing with your product. And then because we've been, also like, we're moving fast, but we're documenting everything, making sure that, if we make a mistake, we learn from the mistake and we don't replicate it again. But now when we go to a customer, so let's say last week I was meeting with a luxury brand, we'll do a workshop and we'll present here, the 7, use cases that we've been deploying with companies like yours. What else can be done? And so we kind of brainstorm with them and we come up with different ideas. Some of them will fall into the use case that we presented, and some of them will be additional. But we track them. And I think with the telco industry, this is a part where we've done pretty well recently, just to speak the same language, understanding the KPIs that matter to them, all the different use cases where our technology can be deployed. So when we go to a new telco, we're not reinventing the wheel. We know exactly what's going to resonate well with them, and we speak the same language.
And I'm quite interesting also because right now, I think companies from an investor perspective, they're always, the valuation is kind of like over-indexed on net retention. And for AI companies, what's really nice is if your product is great, obviously like the usage will keep increasing. And to take your example with a luxury company, we can think of them like using Elevenlabs typically on social media for like specific ads where they're gonna do like maybe voiceover in 30 different languages or whatever. But we can also think of them using Elevenlabs as a support agent that would answer like all the conversation. So do you have an actual upsell strategy to kind of like push bigger accounts and help them like scale, or how does that work?
No, you're totally right, Guillaume. So usually, let's say for a luxury brand, they will start with a creative platform to clone the voice of their brand ambassador, to then be able to dub this brand ambassador from English into Japanese, English into Korean, English into French, etc. And then they will use that for social media, sometimes TV ads, etc. But then also with the agent platform, not only we're now talking about customer support, especially around events. So for luxury brand, especially in France, say there is no call center. Say it's
Yeah.
actually if you're VIP or VVIP, you've got your personal concierge
Okay.
that you can order your handbag, at the tap of a button. However, around specific big events, so think about like the Milan Fashion Week and the Paris Fashion Week, when there is a new show organized by Company X, that's when their website might be completely flooded about like what's the logistic, what time does it start, and blah blah blah, what's the seating plan. So that's what can be actually. They will deliver a better support to all the participants of the event by having an AI agent that can do this at scale and in a personal way. So that's what we're kind of exploring. And then for customer support, this is when also like we're in terms of especially for the retailer all the distribution that they have, because most of those like luxury brands, they don't have an e-commerce website. They distribute across all the different distributors. And so that's also like where we can equip them and show them that they don't have to speak with 10,000 distributors. They can outsource everything to an AI agent that will triage and deflect and answer to most of their repetitive and low value questions.
Now that's nice. And within the team, do you have like target on expansion also, or do you have like a specific team made for expansion, or is this the role of
Yeah, we've got a team of customer success. Traditionally, customer success in most companies will be kind of like traditional post-sales, like hybrid of customer support. CSM at Elevenlabs is such a strategic role. It's all about expansion, not only making sure that the customer see value in their initial purchase, so it can prove a positive ROI, but then also start to add additional breaks, test new models when they come out, test new products, and then also if they use one platform only to expand into the other one. So not only to boost usage, but also making sure that we can spread really quickly into multiple business units within the organization.
You mentioned, because from afar and also like being a Elevenlabs user, I also like see a lot of new features, new updates, etc., etc. How do you make sure that the existing customers see like the full benefit of what's being updated? And I'm also curious, like because obviously like voice, I think it's been evolving extremely quickly. Like if we look at even the quality of I think it was very impressive like from the start. Like I think the wow effect was there, but from the wow effect to having something that's like almost perfect like it is now, I think there's been like a lot of evolution. So how exactly like do you make sure that one, every customers can really see the updates in real time, and two, the customers that potentially like didn't convert back in the days to kind of like reactivate them?
Yeah, so first, for existing customer that might not be using new product. So for that, we're not reinventing the wheel. We've got specific call to action in the product. We're a big fan of video content. I think also something that I forgot to mention is that also almost everybody at Elevenlabs is pretty good in terms of writing, creating content, social media posts. It's not something that we check at the interview level, but it's a plus. It's if you can create content. So that's why, especially in our growth team, we've got some incredible content creator, video content creator. So they create literally like on the fly short form videos that will explain in 45 seconds the benefits of this new product, and everything is embedded within the product. So that's how we push it to more like self-service customer. And then for enterprise customer, we usually inform them in advance when it's available in beta, so they can already start to play with it. We mentioned that we do not recommend to test it in production. However, here's our new model, here's a new product, tell us what you think. So we can also collect feedback. And then when it's ready to be shipped publicly, this is when we usually, for major product, we usually do like webinars and newsletters, and each CSM working on specific markets. We usually do like a geared webinar toward a specific audience. But yeah, we try to communicate as much as possible, and try to be fluid as well. So there's no kind of set guideline and guardrails from our comms teams around that.
Nice. And I was quite curious, like on the industry side, because voice AI, I think it's quite like a controversial like technology. Like we've seen, a lot of people like talking about deepfake, about cloning someone's voice. How exactly, does that work on your end? Because I think you've done also like an incredible job at getting like partnership. I think it was with Matthew McConaughey. Like, there are like a few like people, like actors, etc. So how did you walk through, that path of complexity of a controversial topic to make it like quite trendy and acceptable, and also like going through enterprise deal,
There is still some work that need to be done, and we totally understand why it's a new technology. It's touching the human voice, which is the main medium for two people to communicate and tell stories, and so we totally understand that. We see that as a differentiator. So when we pitch a new prospect or when we speak at events, personally, I always focus on two things. So first of all, how do we work with the voice artist in specific markets? So the plus 10,000 voices on Elevenlabs, they're not synthetic voices that were created by an AI. They're real voices. Like, I don't know if you cloned your voice, Guillaume, but you can go on Elevenlabs and do like a high fidelity, high resolution clone of your voice. But there are like specific guardrail around it. So for example, you couldn't, take podcasts. Let's say if I was trying to clone your voice, I wouldn't be able to do it. Even if you probably have like hundreds of millions of hours of podcast recordings that I can collect. It's a specific set of security, such as when I upload the file, I will need you to be next to me in order to read what we call a voice capture. So I'll upload the recording of your voice, but there will be a unique voice, such as like red cats, white table, blue sky, and then we've got a security team that will match all the different layers to see if the two voices completely match. That prevents all the deepfake category. Even if someone try via another AI solution, we can detect it. So that's step one. Step two with the voice artist is that all the people will go to our platform and share their voice for, let's say, if you want a middle-aged man that speaks French, but with an accent from Marseille. So it will be the voice of Basile on our platform. And every single time that the company uses the voice of Basile, well, the artist behind the voice of Basile will receive royalties from us. And so
nice.
since we initiated this, so it's multiple millions of dollars of royalties that we've been paying. So a lot of actresses, actors, voice artists focusing on dubbing, etc., get this kind of like a passive income that they also get on top of and some of them generating thousands and thousands of dollars per month for 30-minute audio recordings that they've done in the past. So again, the goal is to work closely with the creative community, with the talents, and making sure that they get rewarded. And same apply to our music model, which also being a hobbyist musician myself and a big music fan, I understand also can be controversial. But if you look at how our approach versus the rest of the industry, where they scrapped music from Spotify and YouTube to train some model, I was very impressed that when I joined, the product was ready to be launched. However, we spent close to 10 months to sign partnership with record labels and publisher to only train our model on a controlled data set, and in order to make sure that label, publishers, and artists also get paid on the way, and to celebrate talent and creativity. And so that's our approach. And then on the certification, like making sure you're being GDPR compliant. Now it's by default, you need to have your data hosted in the EU. And then you've got like the ISO 27001 and SOC 2 Type 2 and SOC 3. All the things that we invest heavily, and sometimes it slows down in the short term. But we've got an incredible security team that always push on what would be the local regulations that we need to have to work with medical companies in Germany or in France, etc. And we're going to continue to invest heavily in this because it's a differentiator compared to smaller companies that go a bit wide. And on our side, we're probably the safest AI company on the planet right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's always like the same. When you're small, you don't really want to do all these things like SOC 2, like ISO 20007, as you said, etc. But down the line, like it creates a lot of trust, and I think it's also great for the brand, like long term. And is there like anything that you feel that is extremely different from other companies you've been working with in the past? Like, do you feel like the setup of this new kind of like super fast growing, extremely efficient companies also create like new challenges or problems in some ways that will need to be solved in the future?
So what I think what's happening at Elevenlabs is what I've seen in the early days of Facebook, which is, this, I wouldn't say this army, but like this, super tight team of individuals working toward a common goal. And everybody's behind the mission. We're not counting the number of hours that we're doing. We all work pretty late. We'll work at the weekend, not because we have to, but because we want to. It's so interesting to work with a gaming company, and then you work, to try to digitalize an old school energy brand, and then working with Lemlist to create some cool new features in your product. So it's so like a wide range that it's fascinating. And so that's why when we hire people, we want people who are excited about the industry, who go further. They usually have a blog, they usually have a podcast, they organize like a hackathon. When you have, a team of people like this, then you're absolutely unstoppable. And that's what Meta did absolutely extremely well in the early days. I still remember when we had our first code red, when Zuckerberg sent an email at 5 p.m. We all had to be on the floor, broadcasted from his own desk. And he was like, Google is trying to catch up with us. Now they're taking social media seriously. We've got 60 days to ship the roadmap that we wanted to ship this year. And it was like, everybody was like, yeah, let's do it. And like for the engineers, they shipped mattresses in the office. We all stayed late, beers and pizza, and created this exceptional like vibe. And we've got this vibe today at Elevenlabs. We had it as well at Intercom when Drift was attacking us a little bit. And same, it was like this big kind of gathering, and similar to Code Red with in the early days of Meta, saying wanted to ship, I think, the entire roadmaps that we wanted to ship instead of 1 year, but like in 100 days. And it was this, we dropped all the things that were nice to have to focus on what was needed. Drift at the time had some exceptional talent like Guillaume Caban and David Gerhardt. So at the time, probably still one of the best growth marketer, one of the best content creator. And so we needed to make sure that we kept our competitive edge. And so not only in terms of product, but also on the content side, making sure that also we were everywhere in Europe to protect our asset was super important. And rest of the story, when Intercom is still thriving, and Drift was sold for not too much.
Yeah. Trying to I think they're trying to build like a contender or something with and what's kind of the vision for Elevenlabs? Because you said we all rally like behind the same mission, and we're like super excited. So what's kind of the end goal for the company?
Yeah, so the first one is to break language barrier. Less than 20% of the planet speak English. However, all the books, all the podcasts, we're doing this podcast, in English, even if we're both French. TV series, movies, everything is in English. However, 80% of the population does not speak English. And there's so many great books that I would love my dad to read, or great podcasts where like, listen to this episode, but unfortunately he can't. So I think we're depriving a part of the population of access to knowledge and information. So that's the ones that get me excited. Second part is also it's the impact of AI in the medical space. I'm absolutely blown away by some of the things that our impact team does with organizations, such as Organization for People, that might be touched by ALS, and they have a limited time to clone their voice before losing it. And so before they lose the ability to speak, making sure that we clone it on time. And then when they lose the ability to speak, they can use text-to-speech to speak with their own voice, their own intonations, same accent,
awesome.
the same emotion.
Yeah.
So when you speak to your kids or to your grandkids in 20 years from now, to be with your own voice, not with a robotic voice, like unfortunately Stephen Hawking's. So that's the part also saying like, or also like what we're going to be doing with people that are visually impaired with the International Blind Association, where also we're giving them access to an app which is called the 11 Reader, where you can like put an invoice, a bill, whatever, a link toward the blog post, etc., and we'll use text-to-speech to narrate the content for them. That's also something we offer for free to some organizations. So yeah, if you've got people with ALS or people that might be visually impaired in your network, let's make sure they can get access to this technology for free. So that's what get me fired up.
Yeah, that's so cool. I actually didn't know that you had like an impact team and all these projects. So it's it's so nice to share it. And I'm wondering on a more like personal topic, because I mean, you worked at amazing companies, like unicorns, fastest growing one, the one that have changed, and the one that will probably like change also and leave a mark, on the tech industry. From a personal standpoint, how exactly do you negotiate, your package when you join in such company? And maybe you could give us like different examples. So for example, like how it was at Facebook, what it is at Elevenlabs, like do you get stuck? Like how exactly does that work?
Couple of mistakes I made in terms of career move only occurred when I negotiated my package.
Okay.
Because I was joining the wrong company, but they were paying well. So I was like, yes, like it's a great title, great package. But for Facebook, literally like Facebook, Intercom, Elevenlabs, if they would have told me, Stan, we need someone at the panini machine in the canteen, would you do it? I'd be like, yes, I'll happily do it.
I love paninis.
No, whatever the role, like we need someone to make photocopies, whatever, I would have done it. So Facebook, I didn't negotiate my package at all, which I regret now, especially on the equity side, compared to some of my colleagues who negotiated well that are retired today. But no, I personally didn't negotiate. Intercom, same, as most companies nowadays, they want to pay in the range of your role. However, with Elevenlabs was interesting because I really wanted to join them. They didn't have a role created yet for me. But the conversations that I had with them, with Carles, was like, join us now. We don't know what's going to be your role. We're going to be growing this year. Help us to figure out. Right now, join us. I don't know, we'll give you an AE contract for now. Help us to figure it out. And so with an AE contract for 2.5 months, 3 months before actually moving into a lead role, and best decision ever. And that helped me to learn a bit more of the ropes, also to join before the big wave of hiring this year, to get closer to the product team, to the leadership team, etc. So that's why I remember Sheryl Sandberg, who was the CEO of Facebook in the early days. She was saying that when you offered a seat on the rocket ship, you don't ask where to sit. And so that's why I had this on the back of my mind, and I was like, yeah, moving from a GM role, to now, it felt good. It actually felt good. On paper, people were like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, I feel it's my intuition is telling me that's the right thing to do. And best decision ever. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's nice. And internally, because I was talking with Arthur Waller, from Penny Lane, and he has like a very clear policy, on secondaries, on deals, and they've raised multiple rounds. They gave, I think, a total of 34 million to their employees. Is it something that the CEO also communicate about? Here's the plan for your shares. we aim to do IPO on that time frame, or if we see like a new liquidity event, you're gonna be able to also like cash out a little bit. Like, I'm curious to understand, like, is that a topic within the company? Is that something you discuss openly, or is it more something like, let's focus on work and we'll see later?
Yep. So we do focus on work heavily. However, every single round that Elevenlabs had over the past few years, it opened a window for liquidity for existing employees.
Okay, nice.
It's that's something that is very important to Mati and the rest of the leadership team, just to make sure that as we're getting more and more successful, that also employees do not think too much about like what's going to be the exit, is it like the big acquisitions at the IPO, so we can stay focused now on what we're doing. And I think it's a super smart way to do it.
That's so nice. I know we're almost like running out of time, so I want to be cautious. I was curious, like you've worked in many winning companies. What would be for you, I would say, like the top 3 lessons, you know, for companies who are like winning that others like are not? Because you've been, you know, in companies who are like clearly leaders in what they do. I mean, Facebook, it's pretty clear. I think Intercom also, like they did an amazing job. Elevenlabs is killing it, you know, at scale that are insane and that we've never seen before, like growing like so quickly to hundreds of millions in ARR. So do you feel like there is a recipe for winning? And what is this?
Recipe for winning. So the first one that comes to mind is, your hiring strategy. I would say that plus 90% of tech companies today are too fluffy. If you go to the career page, it's going to be like, hey, kumbaya, open-minded people. And then when you join, you're like, oh shit, like if I don't deliver, I'm going to get fired. So it's being clear. And I've got so much respect for companies like, let's say, Coinbase. I recommend you to go to their career section. If you go to their career page, written in bold, it's you're going to be challenged. We're going to help you to become the best professional version of yourself. You're going to be working with tier A employees and blah, blah. So you know that you're not going there to do 9 to 5. And you know that, or even if you do 9 to 5, you're going to work extremely, extremely hard, and the expectations are high. And same with Basecamp, I'll come back to Basecamp, but same if you go into their career page. So we'll tell you that it's a company for people who like building stuff. Doesn't matter which team, but you'll be contributing. If you're in design or in marketing, you'll be creating stuff, and you don't come here to do middle management tasks. And that's some things that I think we do well at Elevenlabs, that we're very clear who we want to hire. We don't really care too much about high pedigree companies where you worked in the past if you do not perform well during this interview. And we try to compress the interview to keep it as fast as possible. So just less than a week between the first interview and by the time we give you an answer. So we try to hire super, super fast. And part 2, also, when you join the company, we're also pretty focused on making sure that you're set up for success in terms of training and onboarding, etc. But sometimes you hire some very talented people, but that's not a good fit for the organization, and you're not a good fit for them. And so that's why also we do not hesitate to part ways really, really quickly, elegantly. We help them, and also we make sure that we tell them that it's not because you're not highly talented, but you don't have the skill set for this organization, and you're not going to be happy here. And so that's also, we do not hesitate to part ways really, really quickly. Second part is, work ethic. I think it's something that we've lost along the way, but there's so many companies that work 3.5 days productively per week. On our side, we work a lot, and we're having fun. We have each other's back. So it's this great camaraderie. And I think it comes to the fact that nobody has a job title. It doesn't matter who you are when you are in a meeting room. When someone has a good idea, it doesn't matter if you are an SDR that just joined last month, or if you are a very senior person within the marketing organization. You all have the same job title, and I think it democratizes as well access to information. So people with low ego, like me joining with like this ambiguous role, but low ego, but super high ambition, and that's what creates the magic.
That's awesome. And any regrets you had like during your career at all these successful companies?
Regret, the first one that when you optimize for job title and salary, this always, it's not the right way of thinking about, this opportunity is going to be great for me because they pay well. It's especially in sales, it's a long game. I've seen so many super talented people peak after year 5 in their career. It's, if you want to do this for like 20 years plus 25 years, you need to constantly reinvent yourself. And so for that, you need to join the right company where you're going to be learning the skill set for the next 7 years ahead. So that will be advice number 2. And advice number 3 is that, I think it's even magnified when you are founders, like you. But yes, those dark days, when you are behind target and everything is collapsing, but like keep finding a way to kind of remain stable between during the good times. So right now, at Elevenlabs, where things are going pretty well for us, but we try to stay calm. Where we signed a large deal, where we're not going to organize something crazy, a big party, or it's like, great, let's get back to work. But also when things go south, when the entire company is struggling, to stay focused and to not think that you are a failure. And I remember this quote that I seen from Bruce Springsteen, the singer, and the journalist asked him, what is the secret of your longevity plus 50 years in music at the top of your game? And he was like, I have the ability to switch gear between thinking I'm a total badass, but also I'm a total failure. And I can switch gear between rapidly within the two feeling. I think that's what it takes to be, to have a 50 years, career. It's like, that low moments, won't last long, and stay cool when things go well, because celebrate them, appreciate the moments, but think about the future.
I agree. Love Bruce Springsteen. I think is a good mindset to have.
What would be the answer, if I was asking you the same question?
For the advice I would give to people?
Yeah, or the advice you would give to your younger self?
I think I was chatting with Harry Stebbings the other day, and I think he said something that I like, which was, everyone told you, everyone will say, when they've been asked what advice would you give to your younger self, everyone is saying don't give up, it's all gonna work out, etc., etc. And that's the advice you would give. And actually he said that the advice he would give himself is just nothing. He wouldn't tell that everything's gonna work out, because I think it's important to live in discomfort and fear that things might not happen, because that gives you the power, to continue and work hard. And I think for me, it's similar. I think deep down, I think everyone knows what they want to do. I think it's important. The advice I could give is to understand why you are afraid of doing something. So the best thing one can do is to really learn who they are deeply, because I've invested in many companies, and I've also helped hundreds of entrepreneurs. And what I see is that too often people don't do things not because they can't do them, but just because they have a self-limiting belief. Yesterday, again, I was with a European entrepreneur who he told me he watched all my videos, etc. And then he's like, one time I saw your video because we were in our home market and we were struggling. And I saw your video about, conquering the US market from Europe. And he said at that point, something switched. And I allowed myself to think bigger and to start doing and launch my business in the US. And since then, his business basically grew really exponentially. And I think this is the case for a lot of people, they don't always understand why they are afraid of doing something. But once you do, I think it allows you, to remove the limit, because I think the only limits that exist are the one, we put ourselves, and we can always remove them.
Totally. And specifically in SaaS in France, there is always this mantra let's focus on the national market. But I do agree. And again, huge congratulations. I've been following your early days, when making videos in Station F in Paris, to then like bumping into you, I don't know, like 2017 or 2018 in SaaS Talk for the first time when Lemlist was just starting. And yeah, what an incredible odyssey. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, I can say the same to you. Where can people like follow your journey? Like what's the best way to follow the Elevenlabs updates and also like what you're up to?
Yeah, so for Elevenlabs, I would say LinkedIn and Twitter profile. We're super active on both, also on Discord for developers. And then on my side, LinkedIn will probably be the social network where I'm the most active nowadays.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Stan.
Thanks, Guillaume. Always a pleasure.